Chapter 18. Posture of Heart Towards the Other Person. Section 1. Love that I do with my heart must go out. My things must sink. As God is love, He likes His things the most. God's things is love. Though they can't be touched or grasped with our hands, joy and peace come from love. He said when He comes again, He is going to pull His children up into the clouds. 1 Thessalonians 4:16-17 says, "For the Lord Himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we will be with the Lord forever." To where are we caught up now? That God said we would be caught up in the clouds means we are pulled up to the inside of love. Joy is at the place where love rests perfectly. A person who doesn't have love is a person who has nothing to do with God. Joy doesn't come out of those who don't have love. There are no clouds. Since there are no clouds, to where would they be pulled up? They would sink to the earth. Joy and love of the earth don't last very long. They sink. My things sink away, but God's things go up to the air. God is love. What comes out from the inside of love are clouds and joy. When joy gushes out of love, it feels as if I come out of the earth and fly into the clouds. Things given by God don't weigh anything. They are light, so we keep going up into the air. When joy disappears and worries and troubles come, the heart is heavy, so it sinks. That is why there is woe for the inhabitants of the earth. If the inside of my spirit is the kingdom of heaven, it doesn't sink, but floats in joy. When I have hate and frustration inside me, the love of God disappears, so I sink. God's things must float up, and my things must sink. But my things keep wanting to come up from inside. My things must sink, and God's things must float. Then I can live and save the other person too. Thus, things that make my heart heavy must sink so that God's things float, so that there is peace. We must not spill negativity, and love must go out. A negative heart is poison that kills me and even kills the other person. As we live our lives, we can know on our own when a negative heart enters. When a negative heart enters inside, I experience misery and difficulty. When negativity enters, I don't want to see the other person. I can't correctly offer worship to God. I sit at the place of worship out of formality. If the love of God escapes us, it is this frightening. We must always be inside of God so that negativity does not enter. In the last days, the lion of death goes around looking for a person to swallow. If we were to open our spiritual eyes and see, we couldn't look because it is frightening. They, the spirit of disobedience, look for and go inside of those who spill negativity. So we must not spill negativity and give only thanks. If we spill negativity, God's Spirit dies. We must only have thanks, joy, peace, and love inside us. Satan surrenders only at the face of God's love. In our families, too, we must not spill negativity, and only love must go out. No matter what the other person does, we must only love and give thanks, because then the other person melts. Do not kill the other person due to me. In the era of love, God enters as the family. Our love dries up, but the love of God does not dry. The love of God is buried deep inside of me. Now, God pulls out that love, which is deeply buried inside the Spirit. The faith of humans has deteriorated, and due to greed, by the things that can be seen, lives are dying. That is why God of the era of love seizes the things that can be seen and certainly takes a hold of the spirit and flesh. He said in Matthew 18:9, "If your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you." If there is a mean disposition inside us, we must quickly take it out. We must not think we can fool God. We must cast it out while beating our breast. The disposition of evil that flows inside us is something that kills other people. I must not kill the other person due to me. I must not turn my heart, which is towards God, to an improper place. I must genuinely, correctly guard my own self so that I live and the other person lives as well. In the era of love, the love of God that was deeply buried in the Spirit is brought out. I live, and my family is saved as well. Love that I do with my heart must go out. When we dialogue with friends, we are careful not to see their flaws and try to see their strengths. When we're outside, we strain ourselves as we endeavor to show only our good sides. When we are about to leave our homes, we prepare thoroughly and then go out. When we go out, we're even careful about the way we walk. We strain ourselves in every way. But when we come home, we unbuckle our belts and lean back, and we undo all the senses of straining once we go home. With our families, we don't think about trying to show our good sides, and we speak as is. Starting from such a time, we begin to reveal our weaknesses. Onto our families, we unravel all the things we couldn't unravel when we were outside. Our families have become trash cans, and they have a stench. When we go outside, we adorn ourselves attractively and then go out. But why do we not show such concern at home? This does not just refer to the outside appearance of our flesh, but to our hearts inside. When a guest enters the house, that guest is a king. At such time, the husband strains, the wife strains, and the child strains as well. If we strained in this way toward our families, could we not beautifully decorate our families? Now, we must tie up our waistbands towards the family and strain. We must love our family members as if we were treating another person well. Just as we buy something and do well at adorning ourselves, love must also be decorated. If love is decorated well in the family, the fragrance of love oscillates. We mustn't regard our families lightly, but approach them in love. Family is the object of love. With my love, there is greed, so I must go in the love of God. The love I do with my heart must go out to the other person in my family. Section 2. Change to the love of God. We must talk a lot in the family. The family must be thankful and joyful when they look at me. If they look at me and feel difficulty, the family becomes fractured. How dry things are if we live while not speaking to our family members. The worst person is the person who doesn't speak with the one he or she is with. How frustrating it is when a person nearby is speaking, yet the other keeps his or her mouth shut because they're not interested in what's being said. If the other person does not speak, I must start the conversation. Words must be pulled out of that person. For things to unravel, there must be dialogue. If there is no speech in the household, it is complete hell. If we say, "Let's live quietly because it's noisy when we open our mouths," this is to be deceived by Satan. Our vocation is that our families go on changing beautifully by the love of God. If God has placed the other person next to us so that he can make the family happy, we must do well at carrying out such work. If everyone frequently sends signs of love to one another, our relationships become tender. Now, we mustn't draw lines, but approach in love. In the family, communication must be accomplished with family members. We must dialogue with each other a lot. Rather than standing from the point of view of speaking, we must stand in the point of view of receiving. If we try to convey God to a family member who doesn't believe, would that person take in the words if he or she were not in the same line of communication with us? The love of God must come out from our actions. To dialogue is to adjust ourselves towards and for the other person. When the love of God comes out, the other person's heart melts. Individual labor and perseverance is needed in the family. If we look at our ancestors, we can see that they have many great qualities. There is the beauty of a woman who observes filial piety and fidelity. Beauty that we see and the beauty of which God speaks are different. Beauty we think about is beauty that can be seen. God's beauty is that we put our lives on the line and keep the places He has given us. At such time, He says, "How beautiful you are." Our ancestors, having kept their places in such ways, is beauty. This was the beauty and glory of one's family. No matter what happened, filial piety and fidelity were thought of as one's duty, and they observed them. No matter how difficult things were for oneself, he or she did not blame the other person, but quietly kept his or her face. God is not happy about a person resenting another. Any work of making the enemy pay is something that is only in God's hands. Now, God will seek out the beautiful beauty that was shown by Korea's ancestors. They carried out their missions even as they underwent pain. And so Korea has received blessing. Although it is a blessing because Christianity came in, Korea has received blessing because of the labor and perseverance of those who kept their places of the family. Can the young people of this era do such things? We try not to do anything that is even a little bit difficult. We try not to sacrifice for others, and we do things for our own sake. That people in this era live for one's own sake is the work of order being destroyed. God is someone who desires to keep the order. He is happy about individuals keeping their places. Thus, if we want to receive God's blessing, there must be the labor and perseverance of each individual in the family. We must do the love that adjusts to the other person. God said that husband and wife are one body. Until I become one body, my things must disappear. When would we become one? If I try to make the other person adjust to me, I can never become one. When I adjust to the other person adjusts to me. If only each person adapts to the other, they become one. The person who truly loves is the one who knows not himself or herself, but knows the other. If one knows the other person, love is maintained until the end. Paul did not adjust to himself. Because he had to save them, he went inside them and moved together with them. That is how he brought them before God. At the weak person, he did not act like he was strong. So he went as a weak image. To save the weak, he went having adapted to them. To witness the gospel, Paul sacrificed himself and adapted towards the other person. If we can't do this in the family, there is no genuine love. We must know the love of God. Community is not about adjusting to myself, but to the other person. We must become God-centered. In the era of love, we must adjust to God. If so, I must change first. God's things must overflow inside me and flow to my family. The one who is closest to me in my family must acknowledge me. When the love that adjusts, the love that says how lonely my husband must feel, goes out, it is made such that his heart melts. Love is the work of feeding. Adjusting to the other person is not about feeding myself, but feeding the other person. There is a joke that says heaven feeds others, and hell feeds itself. To perfectly keep my position and allow the other person to receive grace is a greater blessing than helping someone financially. So we must do the love that adjusts to the other person. Change to the love of God. Wives put makeup on nicely and take care of their looks. But to whom are they trying to appear? There are almost no wives who try to appear nicely to their husbands. If she tries to appear to her husband, mustn't she also wear makeup at home? Yet she puts on makeup after the husband leaves. Does she not wash her face after her husband has left for work? In words, she says looking nicely is for her husband, but actually that is not so. When she goes outside, she decorates herself and then goes out. Why do we not decorate ourselves within the family? Even if we speak one word, we must be attentive and trim our words beautifully. When we're outside, we filter out words that aren't good to hear and speak words that are good to hear. Even if we say one word, we say it having carefully thought about it. In the family, whether good words or bad, we just speak them anyway. And then we see. We don't think about what is really being said to the other person inside of the words, and just spill them out anyway. If we treat our families the way we treat other people, all things would change. We must restore the family by love. Jesus came for the purpose of restoring the love that was lost. He came for the sake of restoring this love and poured all his blood and water. To restore love in the family, we must sacrifice like Jesus. However much I sacrifice is however much love that comes back to me. If I get annoyed at the other person, would good things come back to me? If I do my best at love, it comes back to me as good things. Husbands especially want to feel good when they leave the house, and they want to receive good things when they come back home. Now, the family must fulfill harmony beautifully. But how could this possibly be without sacrifice? That's why I must throw away my lustful things. First, evil things that move in my family must be taken out. The thorns, barbed inside, must be taken out. Such work can't be done with my love. Our love deteriorates, so it does not form a shape, and it has no power. We must change to the love of God. We must change to His love so that thankfulness, joy, love, and peace arise in our families.